Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at the 3 issues comprising Baobab. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I guess it's a species of tree from Africa. Baobab. And it's a graphic novel written and drawn by Igort, the great Italian cartoonist who started cartooning in the late 70s and is still going. This is from Fantagraphics Books and Coconino Press. They started this line, the Ignatz series, and Baobab #1 is the first one of the Ignatz series, the very first edition. And these are beautiful books. I don't know if you can tell by the size. They're definitely bigger. They're bigger than a magazine size even. They're just this really nice format and very affordable too. These were like, I don't know, $7.95. So cardstock covers with flaps and just really nice stuff. And some of them are full color, some of them are, dual color like this one. But yeah, flaps on the other side too. So let's look into this. This is my first run-in with Igort, and I got this a few years back, and I love his cartooning. He's so good. Unfortunately, I got this very cheap because somebody had scrawled on the cover. I could probably claim that it's Igort's signature, and he just has a very weird way of signing his name. But I'm not going to sell it, so it doesn't really matter. But it's kind of annoying that it mars the cover. So let's crack this open. All the end flaps have beautiful art in them. They're not just there for show. There's Igor drawing Ignatz. This is a great series, the Ignatz series. They had a lot of great cartoons from all over the world. Okay, so we got chapter 1, Hiroshi. It's 1910 in Japan. And he's a little boy, and he's going to visit Madame Yamada. And he's admiring this battleship toy. And it was her son died young. He was a little boy. And she keeps all of his toys for mementos. And I guess he's just a nice little kid who visits this sad woman. And I think she gives him stuff for his grandma, who's ailing, who's sick, and gives him nice little things, and I think he does errands for her and stuff. He's just a good kid. So she promises him that one day she'll give him all of the toys. She's just not ready yet. She still wants to hold on to a piece of her dead son. As you can see, I just love his cartooning so much. It's really simple, stripped down, but really nice. And I really like I'm usually not a fan of duotone stuff, but it works perfectly for this. So now we're at Hiroshi's house. There's his sick grandmother, and he pesters her to tell him this story that I guess she's told him 100 times before, it sounds like. So she agrees, and she tells him about when she was a little girl. Well, when she was 16. Her father and her brother and her, because her mother died giving birth to her, so the mother was never around. The father worked for the Navy, so when they were in Africa, she discovered the infamous Baobab tree. And apparently the Baobab tree is they grow to be huge. They're like 9 feet at the base, a lot of them. And this one looks like he's exaggerating. I don't know if there's a Baobab this big in the world. But she claims that there's a tunnel built into the tree, and carts would drive right under it. And apparently a monkey god lived in this tree. And she said one night she saw someone climb up it with a ladder, and they never returned to the village. He melted into nothingness. So she said that even there's an old tale about how a cart bringing a new family to the village drove through the Baobab, and it's as if it was absorbed. Only a newborn baby, granted clemency by the monkey god, escaped. And that baby was in turn worshipped as a god, and everyone called him Baobab. And she met him when he was a little boy. And she says he was strange. So then he runs off to get some tofu for his grandmother. So now we switch to the other side of the world. It's still the same year, 1910, but now we're in South America, in a small island called Parador. We see a page of some comic strip, and it looks very imaginative. Looks like it could be like something Lionel Feininger would have made, you know, or maybe even Winsor McKay. We're introduced to this kid named Celestino Villarosa, and he's this kid with an incredibly fertile imagination, and he knew ever since he was little that he'd be an artist, that he wanted to draw. And he was kind of head in the clouds kind of kid. He was incapable of distinguishing wakefulness and sleep, so he'd wander off at night to the edge of the dock, half asleep. One day he discovers, from a distant relative, he discovers these like foreign satirical magazines with cartoons and comics in them, and instantly it hits him like a bolt of lightning. He knows what he wants to do for the rest of his life. So when he's a young man, I guess his parents are gone. He lives with his sister, who's kind of sickly. His sister, Gila. Or Gia? And here we get to see a page of the comics he draws. And these look like they would be great comics. I wish they were in full color, like the old-time comic strips were. And they're just very imaginative, very surreal. This totally could be Feininger right there. The weird crooked curve of that ship helm. So he's late for an appointment with his editor. He wakes up late one day. And the editor says, like, hey, your stuff's getting a little too weird. The readers can't follow it. Could you tone it down, just make it kind of, more narrative, and have the comic strip appeal to the adults as well? And hopefully we won't have to cancel it. Now we're back in Japan. And our little hero here is talking to some adults at the bathhouse. Just kind of small talk. And then we see Mrs. Yamada from the beginning. And, I've looked at this so many times, and I really, after rereading this, I don't know what's going on here, because she opens this door, she's walking around in the middle of the night, and we hear a scream. She finds something in this house, which I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm just a dumb reader, or if he just leaves it a mystery to us, because I don't know. So, now here he is with his, Hiroshi's here with his grandmother. And then I believe this is Yamada again, Mrs. Yamada. And she says, I hate this place. If only a great big earthquake would come and swallow up everything. Nice little end paper showing the comic character of that guy. And a nice back cover. Man, I just love this format. These are such beautiful comics. Pick these up wherever you can. I usually find these just for cover price, which was pretty reasonable. $7.95, I think they were. I see these all the time in back issues. They're never marked up. So here's number 2. I love this cover. Beautiful cover showing the cartoonist and his creations surrounding his head. Because that's where his brain is all the time, I guess. Nice little end paper. Now we're going to learn more about Celestino. as a young man, the cartoonist. So in Parador, he has a best friend, and he's also a cartoonist and an artist. And his friend is kind of talking about leaving. And Celestino's just like, I love it here. There's no reason why I want to leave. I got everything I need here in Parador. And also he's got to take care of his sister, Gila. So his friend leaves for America. But then they have a flashback to when they were younger and they first were starting their cartooning career. And they both have big ideas about comics. Most people didn't really think this way back then, but they were like, yeah, comics can do anything. They can be poetic. They can, show the inner lives of human beings and the dream life of human beings, and just basically be art. His buddy kind of is attracted to Gila. Oh yeah, and in the flashback she's not sickly, and but then she finds out that he's a playa. He's always hanging out with different ladies. He's very popular with the girls, and that totally changes her mind. And after that, she's just like, nah, forget that guy. So basically, Gila's like an old maid already. She just doesn't care, really. So his friend is showing him about his new comic strip. He's got the soldier character. And they convince this guy to reopen his press just so they can publish this comic book magazine. Orfeo. Yeah, Blvd is his name. Sorry, the friend. We see a page of his comic strip, Rufus Rio, who I guess kind of becomes kind of a popular comic strip character. And I like this. He's talking about their influences, other satirical comic strip artists and graphic artists. And then he actually shows examples like him aping them. Or these could just be reprints for all I know. I don't know. Could be. But it's interesting to see like this world of cartooning I know nothing about. Different artists and with different amazing styles. So unfortunately the magazine goes out of business. But he does create his character Morvo before it does. And Morvo is the character we've been seeing. The long-bearded gentleman. And so the publisher dies. That's why it goes out of business. Morvo never gets to be published. He had it all ready to go. Here we have a little insert showing you the Ignatz series. I like this. All the artists draw their own Ignatz. They get all the artists from this series. But this is the kind of stuff they were doing. They just had all these great English cartoonists. Kevin Huizenga from America. Geepy. I think it's Geepy. Lorenzo Mattotti, the great Italian artist, did one for them. Richard Sala. David B. Insomniac guy. I'm sorry, the epileptic guy. That's some great stuff. Oh yeah, they even got Gilbert Hernandez to do some new tales of Old Palomar. So you gotta hunt these down. They all look pretty good. I don't have all of them. I definitely want to get them all eventually. So now we're getting to up to the future now, or the modern time. So 26, Gila falls ill. And a traditional healer doesn't do anything. She does all kinds of hoodoo on her. But it gives the artist a great opportunity to draw this crazy, I don't know, psychedelic, weird shit. This is her in her trance, her voodoo trance. Oh, 2 more pages. Oh, that's nice stuff. This is almost like he's thinking of Steve Ditko here, I think. I wouldn't be surprised. And this is kind of interesting. It almost kind of fits just to show that, like, wow, she's in another place. It just like becomes this for 3 pages. Just no art, just little descriptions of what's going on in her head and what she's hearing and seeing. And it doesn't work. So they call in a Western doctor. And he can't really fix her either. He says, maybe you have to take her to Europe or something where there's better doctors. The next day, Gila cuts her hair off. She spends long hours at night staring out at the sea. And one night, Gila's out there with a lamp as if she's trying to summon the ships. And she says, Walla Walla, take me with you. That's the character that she said that her brother should draw. I think she saw it in her vision, her voodoo vision. Another beautiful end paper. That's some great design work. And a beautiful back cover as well. This guy can seem to do any style. This one kind of sticks to the same style, but every now and then you see glimpses of the other kind of styles he can do. And yeah, I definitely want more of Igort in my life. I just have one more graphic novel by him. So you have number 3. He draws that kid so cute, I gotta say. So now we're back in Japan, 1910. This is where the duotone gets really nice. He's walking through the woods at night. Just, that's such beautiful color. I love it. So much of this comic is just little incidences that don't necessarily add up to much. It's just little moments here and there. Just he has a very interesting storytelling style. Kind of more evocative than like trying to tell a good story as far as a traditional story with a first act, second act, third act. He just jumps around showing little points in people's lives, but really well observed. So he comes to his house and the doctor's there tending to the grandma. And after he leaves, the doctor leaves, the grandmother says, your old grandma's going to die, Hiroshi. And he starts crying. And she says, don't cry. Death is just part of the cycle. You got to learn to accept these things, Hiroshi. In a few days, a friend of your father's will arrive to take care of you and your education. And this is the last we see of Hiroshi, just crying with his grandmother just laying it out for him. The cold, hard truth. So now we're back in Parador, and we learn a little bit more about Parador. It's just this horrible dictatorship. It's this bleak and sunburned little island, and it's been ruled by this dictator, Fulgencio Villa, for a long time, just as long as anyone can remember. But, you know, Celestino doesn't care. He's off in his fantasy world. He doesn't, keeps his nose clean, so it's not like he has to deal with it much. So he's walking to the editor, the newspaper editor's place, and he's like, in his head, he's doing this whole dialogue of how he's going to ask for a raise. I guess Morvo's been very successful, his comic strip, and so he's like thinking, my comic strip, a lot of people like it, and I deserve a raise now. But when he gets there, the editor's bereft. He's almost crying because the black squads of the dictator came the night before and smashed the presses and destroyed most of the shit in the office. I guess he did some investigations into the United Banana Company, who kind of runs the island this far, and probably the American corporation. And give you a little background about how harsh the regime treats its people. It's a very harsh dictatorship. So now we're introduced to Tekla, who's the daughter of the editor. And we quickly see that there's an affinity between the two. Celestino's pretty much older than her. He saw her grow up, basically. Watched her grow up. And he never realized, but Tekla's like, oh, I loved your newest comic strip. He's like, you actually read those? She's like, yeah, I love them. So we get to see another Morvo strip. And these look like, I like these strips. I wish there was a book of these. It just looks like this crazy, dreamlike, goofy strip. Here we see her become a woman. And apparently he gets like 3 fan letters. They're like, hey, some people wrote in about your work. He didn't know. And he's like over the moon about these 3 fan letters. Like, it totally changes his brain. In his mind, he's just floating above everyone. And he's just so, just the fact that anyone is reading his stuff is just, it totally changes his outlook on his cartooning. And it kind of reinvigorates him. So he spends every waking hour thinking about his comic strip, working on his comic strip. So the newspaper gets back on its feet after a few days. They won't let the fascists, stop them. They get another press. They're getting these contributions from great authors who are like, in sympathetic support to them. And the newspaper kind of gets even more acclaim because it really unites all the different political groups who are all against this dictator. Socialist, anarchist, progressive. None of them like this guy. Even just normal, run-of-the-mill Democratic type people. This is just a great... He's so good at drawing buildings and stuff in this little simplified style. Oh man, his cartooning is just easy on the eyes. I love this shit. So he writes a letter to his old friend Blvd, who went off to America. Blvd is kind of successful. He's working at a syndicate, the McClure Syndicate, which was a real comic strip syndicate back in those days. And he's even about to get some animation work with Pat Sullivan. And he's happy to hear from his friend and that he's doing well. And, he tells him about his 3 letters and how excited he is. So then Celestino finally gets up the nerve to ask Tekla out for a date. He takes her to a mesmerist, a hypnotist. And he agrees to be one of the guys that goes up on stage. And under hypnotism, the mesmerist says, what is the secret you cannot confess? And he says, I love Tekla de Cilla, but I don't know how to tell her. And everyone's laughing, but she's in the audience. It's like, holy shit. So he's oblivious. So when they're walking away, when they leave the show, he's like, whoa, I can't remember. Did I do anything embarrassing during the session? She says, nothing you need to regret. And she just plants a kiss on him. So one day they're having coffee in a cafe, and they see this guy who's a senator who's like pretty much in league with the black squads. And she's kind of worried. She's like, oh, if that guy's in town, nothing good can come from it. There's some shit going down. So when they come back to the newspaper office, the father is hanging from a fan, the editor. They pull him down. He's not dead. But something about this pushes Celestino in a ghastly way to grow, to become, for good, a man. We see this, I love the way he draws this little, this metaphorical panel where he accepted this event with the tragic force that he sensed in himself, as if he had been kicked in the face by a willful donkey. And so they take the father to the hospital. He's okay. I mean, he's pretty shaken, as you can imagine. And he vows to not let the newspaper go under. He's going to keep fighting. Then we have another metaphorical panel. Celestino reaches out to stroke the muse, that stubborn, wicked mule. He's a mule muse. And Celestino tells the editor, he says, you can count on me. I'll be with you every step of the way. We're not going to let this newspaper go down. And then the whole graphic novel ends with just one of the metaphorical panels. So let's reiterate. And he reached out to stroke the muse, that stubborn, wicked mule, with a firm hand and a smile on his lips. So it's almost like he's just finally taking control of his destiny, instead of just being like blown around by the winds of fate. And I just love this wash style he does. I don't know if it's a watercolor or whatever. I'm not a cartoonist, but it's amazing. Another beautiful end flap. And another beautiful back cover. So that's it. Baobab. I hope somebody can set me straight on that. I'm probably pronouncing that very wrong. But I just love these comics. They're just the way the story is told, just these little vignettes. It's kind of like a cool European art film where, yeah, maybe it's not like the typical narrative structure, but it's really fun to read and interesting. And God, I love the cartooning. So hopefully you can find these for cover price like I did. And except for that one, I found dirt cheap. So hopefully you'll find an issue where some child scrawled all over it and you'll get it for cheap. But until then, I remain Herculespetix of the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. See you next time.